Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Lupus Living Room. My name is Suzanne Tierney, and I am the CEO here of the Lupus Foundation of America's Greater Ohio chapter. And I'm also a lupus patient. And I love to have casual talks with other people that are impacted by lupus. And in my living room today, I have a couple guests that I'd like to share their stories. And one is Jessie Travis. The other is, I'm going to butcher this one up, Roberta Solikia. Did I do almost okay?
No, you added a little A at the end.
All right,
It's
so
okay.
pronounce your last name. So, okay. And they are from Lodi, Ohio. They came up to Cleveland today, and you can see they have their walk shirts on.
Yeah.
They recently attended the walk this year and last year. And what's interesting about the two of them that I'm really intrigued about is mother-daughter, and they both have lupus. Welcome to my lupus living room.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Oh, I'm so
Happy to be here.
excited. Well, first of all, did you enjoy the walk?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
It had its moments,
yeah,
but it
in
was
between getting sick, we enjoyed it.
Okay,
you know,
so
it felt really good to finish and it felt
Yeah.
really good to be there with everyone else. And it was really cool because last year we went as well and we were able to get even more people with us to go this year. We had my brother and a couple aunts. So I think each year that we go to get a bigger and bigger group is
Yeah.
really fun.
so it looks like you like hanging out with other fellow Lupians.
Yep.
Did you introduce yourself, or did you make any friends, or add
I
on to
don't
your?
think so. No, but everybody's friendly. I
Mhm.
mean, you just chit chat.
What'd you think of our little lake up there,
I
huh?
love it.
Yeah.
It's
I
the
like
perfect backdrop
yeah,
for all the
I
selfies.
love that. Yeah, that was pretty.
Yeah, so for those of you that are watching, we were right on the lake up there on the river,
Yeah, it
and
was gorgeous.
it was pretty, and it was a beautiful
It
day.
was.
Beautiful
It was
day.
perfect.
Perfect.
New
Last year
venue,
was too.
new venue for us. The walk is a little challenging, and but we had a smaller version if you couldn't
Yeah.
champion that hill, so that you know for next time.
Yes.
I'm not sure where we're having it next year. Maybe we'll stay there. Maybe we won't. We always continue to look for some fun places.
Yeah. And it is fun to see around Cleveland too. Like it was really
Yeah,
neat
well,
to
I did get a
see
couple
all those
calls
places.
that they weren't coming because they didn't like the location,
Oh, you're
Oh.
and
kidding.
it's like, oh, not
That's
everybody
really not
likes.
the point.
Well, yeah, and it's daytime. It's early enough. It's safe. It's
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't make everybody happy. You
Yeah.
certainly try though.
Yeah.
Okay, Roberta, this started with you, Mom.
Yes.
Mom, you diagnosed in 2009, or you didn't feel good in 2009,
Yep.
and she has some pancreatic issues.
Yeah, chronic
Okay,
pancreatitis.
so let's tell our audience, how does lupus impact you? What's going on, and what's your biggest challenge?
Okay. First, my biggest challenge was getting diagnosed because I'm sure, like many other loopies out there, you go to the doctor with these complaints and they brush it off as stress or just, oh, you're just, you need to rest. I had one doctor tell me to meditate, that would get rid of my issues like the hair falling out and the sleeplessness and the rashes. I mean, it was just one thing after another. And I finally found a doctor that did some blood work and came back and she said, yeah, you have lupus.
hmm
And
Was the person who did the blood work a rheumatologist?
no, this was my family doctor.
Okay.
And I had started it. She was a newer doctor to me. And I gave her a rundown and everything that was going on. And she, for some reason, maybe she knew about the lupus issues and symptoms and stuff, but something tipped her off to check me. And sure enough, it came back positive.
hmm
So, and that was, yeah, like 2000.
Do you recall any other symptoms at that time?
Well, I had all the joint pains, and I was only in my 40s.
Mm-hmm.
So even my bonus mom would say, "You're too young to have all these aches and pains," because she was a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "There's something else going on." So I had the aches and pains. I had the rash on my face. I had the hair loss. I had um, mostly, I think it was just like the migraines and all that stuff.
And definitely the sun sensitivity. I
Yeah.
remember going on vacations even, and we would go on beach vacations every year in the summer, like people do. And her forehead would balloon out, like she
Yeah.
would swell
Yeah.
and almost have an allergic reaction to the sun. And it was just like, oh yeah, I just don't do well in the sun. Like that's a normal thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, she had always had problems with redness on her face, and I think it always just got chalked up to rosacea
Yeah,
and skin
that's what I was
problems.
told. It was
And
rosacea, but it wasn't. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is like I'd be in a store and my husband would be down the aisle and looking at me. This is before I wore foundation all the time, and he'd be like, "You look like a raccoon," because my face would be so red, and just around my eyes was just the white part. She was able to take all these symptoms and put them into one basket. And then from there, I went to a rheumatologist. She did further tests. And, with the lupus along came the rheumatoid arthritis, the fibromyalgia. And then the lupus progressed to a point where it started attacking my pancreas. And many doctors could not figure out why I was having chronic pancreatitis. And we were talking earlier about the pain that you got, from, I don't know what you called it, myalgia, something myalgia.
Trigeminomyalgia.
But I would rather give birth again than to have pancreatic pain. That's how bad it is. And it just feels like somebody is stabbing you.
So how are they treating that?
They didn't. There is no treat for it because the pancreas, first of all, there is a new procedure where they can take the pancreas out, grind it up, and put it in your liver because they work together. But
Wow.
yeah, that is very risky just to get them in there to look at the pancreas through an upper GI. They have to have a special camera, and if they bump anything in there, it'll send you into a pancreatic attack. So they have to be real careful what they do. So basically, the lupus attacked it enough where now my pancreas doesn't work and I've become a type 1 diabetic, which was my biggest fear through my whole life because I used to pass out from needles. And
she got a lot better with it though.
I have. Lupus has done much better.
So do you have a pump or you have
I
a
do.
patch? You
I
have a pump?
A pump on one arm and the sensor on the other. And,
Okay.
but yeah, I never wanted to be diabetic because I was afraid I would have to give myself shots, which I did at first, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And you learn to live with it.
You learn to live. So a couple of things I want to reflect on here is one, you hit that borderline of who our target is, not my target, but who lupus targets is 18 to 44.
Right.
Okay. And what's interesting, and the reason I asked your age earlier was more and more postmenopausal women are being diagnosed with lupus. Doesn't mean they just got it. It means that had been floating around and they didn't. You're right. And so your family doctor caught this for you, and back in 2009, that was a pretty good catch.
Yes,
because that's real positive to me. It took me 19 years to get diagnosed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was a lifetime.
I want to say it went on. I mean,
yeah, it was a couple of years.
It was a couple of years, but certainly not 19.
No,
Yeah.
no, I would say at least.
But you had the butterfly rash, you had hair loss, you had aches and pains, you had you had 4 out of the 11 criteria, so you had it. Okay. Let me see this. So there's no medications for the pancreas. You have diabetes, and you had something else you mentioned to me of sun sensitivity, Raynaud's disease. You found out you had Raynaud's as well. So this goes back to, for those people that are new to the podcast, I don't want any of this to scare you because it is typical that a lupus patient have more than one autoimmune disease. It's not terribly unusual. And you also have fibromyalgia. And you said something about meditation. All right. So I'm going to step in here for a minute. It's really not that unforeseen that would help you. It's certainly not going to cure you. Okay. But from someone who went through pain management for several years, biofeedback, medication, hypnosis, Reiki. If you treat your brain to handle pain and conflicts and stress, it will make you feel better. Your endorphins lift. there is positivity with holistic things. Now, I'm not saying just jump off the medicine and go holistic,
Right.
but hand in hand, they complement each other. Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Okay. And then along came you, right?
And along
Okay.
came
Along
me.
came Jessie in
Yes.
2022. And she's like, uh-oh. So, Jessie, what's your story and what's your biggest challenge?
So I think my biggest challenge to date is the fatigue, and I think the neurological
Yeah, the
effects of
migraine.
lupus. My particular brand of lupus seems to really focus on my nervous system. I get a lot of migraines. I get a lot of confusion, uh, dizziness, memory loss, even, which was really what spurred me to put my foot down and insist that I get tested. So I guess to back way up, she went through so much trouble getting her diagnosis in the first place, and even at the same time, once she got diagnosed, was starting to see all of those same things in me as I was a teenager. So she was noticing the rash on my cheeks, and she was noticing how sensitive I was to the sun, and how often I was being incapacitated with headaches. Um, and just commenting, you really got to watch out for that. You really got to watch out for that. Like, you could also have lupus. And as I got older, I would mention it to doctors, and they would brush it off and say, no, you're too young. No, it's, I'm not going to test you yet. It's not worth it. It's going to cost too much money. You don't have enough symptoms. And then when I was in my 30s was when the symptoms finally got serious enough. As I said, neurologically, I would I work from home, and I would be standing in my kitchen, and I didn't remember why I was in my kitchen. I wasn't sure if my kitchen was even the intended destination, or if there was somewhere else I was trying to go. Um, I was just in my kitchen and kind of spinning in circles. And so I would do some dishes and then try to remember. I would go back to work, and then maybe it would occur to me what I needed later. But it happened quite a few times. And along with that, the rash was getting worse on my face. I would have days where it was just so bright and so painful and hot. The sun sensitivity got worse, the fatigue got worse. Some days my knees would just decide they didn't want to work. And so I finally said to my doctor when I was about 33, I said, I want to be tested. I know that this is a possibility, and I'm showing enough signs. I want to be tested. So we finally did it, came back pretty much immediately. Yep, positive. Um, for systemic lupus and for Sjogren's. It took me about 6 months to get into a rheumatologist, which, from what I'm hearing, not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like an eternity to me, but not that bad. She immediately put me on Plaquenil. Took a little bit to kind of see any helpfulness from it. Um, but it did eventually reduce some of the internal inflammation, which was nice. It did not do much for the constant headaches and the fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that I still am struggling with. So I see, I'm working with a sleep doctor to do sleep studies to try to
Okay.
figure out if maybe there's something else
Mm-hmm.
leading to the constant fatigue. I mean, it gets to the point where, some days I wake up and I just cry because I just don't have the energy in me to do a day as a person. Um, and so I work with a sleep doctor. We're working on that. I've just seen a neurologist. We're working on managing the headaches. So it's sort of a piecemeal approach. But I'm hopeful, and I think that the headache management that I have in place is starting off on the right foot. And I think obviously nothing's going to work 100%, and there's always going to be bad days, but it feels like I'm at least doing everything I can to sort of get ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of
So
feel like you have to almost take each day and address that issue for the day, because you're going to have issues. You're going to have days where you feel okay, but then you're going to have days where, like she said, you don't even want to get out of bed. And I've had those days where the brain fog and waking up and thinking, I don't even want to get out of bed. I don't want to move. I mean, it's just, some of it just lays you out, and you just got to deal with one day at a time.
Yeah, so I want to circle back to, so in 2022, you were actually diagnosed by a rheumatologist. You were not. You're currently seeing a rheumatologist, a
No,
uh,
she's a rheumatologist.
a rheumatologist and a neurologist.
Yes,
Okay.
rheumatologist, neurologist. I think there's also
A lot of
a
the
sleep doctor.
a lot of the ologists.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
got a lot of
All right.
ologists.
And there certainly is a shortage. So, we have a new one now, lupologist.
Do
Okay.
we really?
Yes, so there's one at the Cleveland Clinic.
Really?
Yeah,
How
so
do I sign up?
that's one their specialist is. So, so I want to circle back because things you say I think are important to our audiences. First of all, the doctor, if you're fortunate to have a doctor recognize your symptoms and do some blood work and suggest that you have lupus, I would immediately then said, okay, now I want a rheumatologist. Okay. And that rheumatologist, when you find him, you want to make sure the first question you ask is how many lupus patients do you treat?
Oh,
And if they said 2 or 3, you're going to hit the door, okay? Because you really want to be in the presence of someone who has a history and knowledge of the various phases of lupus and has been successful at treating them. And yes, it takes a very long time. There is a shortage of rheumatologists. And if you have an appointment, for God's sake, do not cancel it or no show it. Show up for that appointment because it may take you 6 months to see him again.
Yep.
Okay. And if you're trying to get your meds refilled, that could be a nightmare because you have to be in front of that doctor within a year span.
Right.
That's that. And so also, if you're listening, do not be scared by the fact that you may in fact have a host of doctors.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yes,
it's a journey.
Both have
Yeah,
teams.
I have
it's
a color-coded calendar.
yeah,
I
it's
will
not
tell you.
as well. So it's not in the old days where we had a family doctor and he took care of. Not anymore.
Yeah.
So you could be seeing a dermatologist, you could be seeing a rheumatologist, a nephrologist. You girls didn't mention anything about kidneys, and I'm excited about that. So you mentioned something though about memory loss and confusion. It's not unusual to have lupus fog, where and so these words are very different. I haven't really heard of anybody with a lot of confusion. Okay, pretty much everyone I speak to has the memory fog, meaning it's like, oh boy, I was going to say something, and the cabinet's stuck. I can't.
Yeah.
It's in there, but
Right.
I can't quite get it out. And so that's a little bit different than confusion. So there's also something called CNS lupus, which is central nervous system involvement. Okay, I have that. Okay, so but I also had a stroke from lupus. All right, little stroke, not a big deal. I mean,
Just a
at this
little
point, But when you have lupus of the brain, it's very serious. Okay, so if you're having confusion, if you're having a lot of memory loss, make sure you mention that to your doctor because you really want to stay in front of that.
Yeah.
And is
Yeah.
that something? How would you know if it's lupus of the brain? Like how
Here,
do they test
what
for
is
that?
this?
Pen?
A pen. And what does it do?
You're right.
Okay, so if you saw it and you didn't know what it was, and you didn't know what it would do, it's an issue.
Okay.
You're confused.
Okay.
Okay, it's not a spoon.
Right.
Okay. There's a difference between confusion and loss. Okay, so there's a clarity there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and hopefully you don't have CNS lupus or one of
Right.
those worse
And
diseases
and that
like
was what kind of, like I said, it really did scare me. And sometimes it does happen, although not as often. But that was what really kind of lit the fire under me to talk to the
Mhm.
doctor, because it was like, I can't keep just ending up in the middle of my house and not knowing why. I can't keep forgetting what I'm doing in the middle of doing it because I'll
Did they
get
do an
fired.
MRI? Did they do a brain scan?
They have not.
Okay.
When she was younger, she had an MRI with contrast or
Mhm.
CAT scan.
But
with
and you have
contrast.
these headaches and they haven't done an MRI and a brain scan? Do you have insurance?
Mhm.
Do you have insurance?
Oh, very good
I
insurance.
would really ask them why not.
Yeah.
Why have we done this? I have these headaches. How do you know what's in there?
Right. I
Okay.
expected the neurologist to, he came up, he said it's, chronic migraine and gave me
Mm-hmm.
a preventative. Um, but yeah, I expected to have to,
I would ask him
go
why.
through.
Why hasn't one been done?
Right.
I want to see what's in there. You know?
Yeah.
You want to see what's in there.
I do.
Yeah.
I do want to see what's in there.
Okay. Okay. I got my notes here. I'm going through. Okay. Shortages, Plaquenil. So Plaquenil, you're on Plaquenil. Mom's not on Plaquenil. Mom was suggested Plaquenil, but she chose not to go on it.
Well,
So
I was on
Plaquenil.
it back in the day.
Okay, so Plaquenil is interesting. So once in a while, here's the bad. It gets a bad rap. As with any medication, if you read the labels, you won't take anything.
Right.
Okay, but Plaquenil takes a long time to kick in. But once it kicks in, it really gives you a better quality of life. It helps overall with those aches and pains. It's not a painkiller. It just helps the disease. It helps your hair, helps your eye. People read on there that you could get eye toxicity or an eye. So I had a person say to me, "Oh, I tried it for 3 days. I couldn't see." It's like, okay, knock it off. Okay, that's not
Yes,
true.
Yeah, it does not
It's
work
not
that
true.
No.
Actually, my ophthalmologist, I have 4 different eye specialists because I had
Okay.
other eye issues, said in his practice, and he's getting ready to retire now. He's only had 1 with the eye toxicity. So it's
Right.
rare. It's rare.
But they,
Yeah.
Okay.
they still
And
come
I've
they
been on
check
it
you.
Yeah,
for
every
over
6 months, I
20
think you
years.
go.
Yeah.
Right. I've been on it for over 20 years and I don't have that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So let's give it a chance. Now I have met a couple people who threw up or had diarrhea from it, which I thought was interesting. But people read that little info package disclosure about the eyes and it's like, okay, I'm not taking it. I'm not going to go blind. No, you're not going to go blind. Okay. The people that are impacted, there's a few. Okay. But not the majority.
My doctor,
Okay.
when I did go to the rheumatologist before COVID, I had been going to a rheumatologist and I was on the Plaquenil. And the first thing she would always say in our visits was, "Did you see the eye doctor? Are you keeping up with your eye
Keep up
appointments?"
with the eye doctor. Yeah.
And yeah, so that was one thing that was, important to always be on top of. And now with the diabetes, it's
Mhm.
almost the same thing. You got to
Yeah.
keep an eye on your eyes. And the only reason I am bad at doing this, but because when COVID was over, I couldn't get into my doctor, my roomie, and so I just kind of let it go. And then I ended up becoming diabetic, so I just put the roomie off to the side to go to the endocrinologist, And I probably shouldn't have done that. And now I need to find a new roomie because she's not there anymore.
Yeah. And you guys are rural Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, once we get past, you're not in Columbus yet, but once we get past Columbus, us people up here in the Cleveland northern part of the state, we forget that the rest of the state is farm country.
Oh, yeah.
What is that green stuff? Is
Yeah.
it soy? What is all
I mean,
that?
we have so
Most-
many Amish around us that it doesn't even phase us anymore.
Soy, some of it's beans.
It's
Yeah,
all
it is.
green. Once you get past Columbus, it's what are we growing
Yeah,
here,
that's usually soy.
I'd say corn, but the corn's not green anymore. It's
Yeah.
mostly just brown. It's all dying.
Oh, God.
Usually the stuff that's in the ground now that's
Still
turning
slow,
brown
it's slow.
yeah, that's the soybean.
It's soybean.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Mom,
Yes.
you're in your 40s, you're diagnosed with this chronic disease. Did you know anything about lupus?
No, I knew nothing about it. I said, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's called lupus." So of course, you go home and you Google it and you read up on it and you think, "Holy crap!" Like all these things could happen and these things have happened, and it opens up for like almost all issues that you're having with your body could be affected by lupus. And you were asking earlier about insurance. I had, at the time when I got diagnosed, I had Blue Cross.
Mhm.
They had an advocate call me, and I don't know if you call her an advocate, but she was a nurse, and
Mhm.
she would call me once a month and see how I was doing. But the first visit, she went over all these things that could be wrong with me.
Mhm.
And how's your ears? Well, they're fine. Well, your eardrums are an organ. They can be
Mhm.
affected.
That's true.
And so every little detail, you don't realize that this,
Mhm.
even though it's weird to everybody else, is normal for you.
So let's be clear. The lupus, what it's saying is your autoimmune system has gone haywire.
Right.
It has gotten very confused.
Mhm.
Instead of protecting yourself from foreign invaders, go away, go away. Foreign invaders, bad microorganisms, anything bad cells, stay infections, just stay away. Well, with lupus, the autoimmunity, it turns the opposite
Yeah,
direction,
it
and
says, come on in. Let's
it's
have a
like, come
party."
on in. I'm not protecting you anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful. And infections and pneumonia
Yeah.
and viruses and flus are our enemies.
Yeah.
And don't take a little cut for granted. And for God's sake, stay out of the sun.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying a girl came in here not so long ago. I swear she had Playtex gloves on, a hat, a coat, and it's 80 degrees. I said, what the heck? Well, she's allergic to the sun. I said, why are you allergic? You're allergic to the sun? Well, I have lupus. It's like, oh, no. Your sun isn't your friend.
No.
Okay. For God's sake, don't go to a sun tanning booth and don't lay out in the sun on the beach
Right.
or spend 3 or 4 hours. Okay.
Yep.
And use SPF the highest degree. The sun is your enemy because it could take a dormant lupus and boom, boom,
Right.
make those
That
cells.
happened to me the
Yeah,
one
make
year we
those cells
went to
come up.
Myrtle
Yeah.
Beach.
Yeah, you can go, but you're not going at 12 to
I
4.
went on a lovely cruise with the family, and it was this really awesome. I think it was like a 7 or 8 day cruise, and we had so much fun. But I had a long sleeve swimsuit that had like a UPF.
Yes, sure.
I mean, we did amazing things. We went swimming with dolphins, but
hmm
I made sure that
You
when
take
I knew I was going to
precautions. You
be
take
directly in the
precautions. Yeah.
sun, I was as covered as I could be. I tried to keep my hat on. I, had enough time in the shade when it got too direct. You take the precautions, but you can still have a good time at the beach
Oh,
or
right.
go outside and swim and do all of the things. I didn't.
So when mom was diagnosed, you were working at the time.
Mhm.
Did it affect work? Did it affect?
Yes.
Let's
Oh.
talk about Mr. Wonderful sitting in the corner over there. Okay, who said, I'm not going to say a
He didn't
thing.
want to be on the
He's not going to
podcast.
say a thing, okay? But how did he respond to this lupus?
I think he kind of did a little bit of research, but most of it came through me, like
Mhm.
explaining to him what's going on. And even to this day, because it becomes almost part of your normal life, whatever you can say is normal these days. But I even tell him, look, I'm having a lupus day. I'm not going to really do too much today. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I'm chilling out. And then a couple days later, I might feel like doing something. And so I told him, I said, you got to take that opportunity when you can. And that's when we go and do things. But when I'm not having a good day and he wants to go ride in the convertible, I'm like, I just.
Now, he had a bike. Did you ride with him?
Yes, I did.
Oh, man,
I
you're a
did.
brave soul.
I did. Oh,
Oh.
he always had the, what did you call it? You had precious cargo on the back.
Uh,
So he was good at riding. And he only wrecked when he rode by himself. So.
he only wrecked once
Yeah.
or twice, maybe. Okay, now along comes this one,
Yep.
and your daughter has lupus. What was your response to that?
Well, I had been watching her over the years
Mhm.
and seeing little things that
I
I
think
went
she already
through.
kind of knew.
And I was like, and then when the rash started becoming more obvious, I was like, Jess, you have got to get in there. And that's when like she said, she'd asked several doctors and they were like, no, you don't have enough of it or enough symptoms or you're too young or whatever. But I just kept saying, you got to follow through. She probably has been my biggest advocate for me because she will make sure, Mom, stay out of the sun. Mom, do you have your sunscreen? Mom, do you have your hat? So now that she's going through it, we kind of lean on each other and we'll be like, okay, what was your day like? Oh, well, I had
There's
this
always
going on.
extra fans or hats or
Yeah.
sunscreen in the car. There's always Excedrin in our purses.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're diagnosed, okay, and you knew your mom had it, but I don't think she scared you. I think she was muddling through.
Yeah.
What was your response to your diagnosis?
I mean, it wasn't surprising, but it's always going to be scary.
Right.
It's still life-changing. Like I knew what it was going to say before I read it. I got the results back and I knew what it was going to say because I watched it happening, and I saw the symptoms, and I was like, okay, this is probably how this is gonna go.
And you also started taking precautions early too.
Right. And, I mean, when you like, I was already so sensitive to the heat and the sun, so I was already wearing hats and staying out of the sun because that was what was more comfortable for me. Like, I wasn't gonna be uncomfortable. So it was, but it was still scary because it's still like, okay, this is a confirmation that I do in fact have this disease, and there is no cure, and there are things that are going to come with it.
Because you
There's
have a
going
little
to be
family. You
complications.
have a young
Right.
young toddler over there.
And we don't know enough about it, and
Yeah.
so I don't know what other complications are going to be in my future. I'm still really young, and who knows what's down the road. I gotta, it was definitely scary as a parent. It was like, okay, I gotta get on top of this and make sure that I can still be like an active, like, strong parent. I got to still make sure that I can work. I got to make sure I can, like, do all of these things.
And so, what did your child say? Did you have this conversation?
He had some kind of matter of fact kind of
He
answer.
usually does.
Yeah.
He is very facts forward. He's very facts first. He takes things, at scientific value. So I did. I said, Jameson, it turns out I have lupus as well. That grandma has lupus, and so do I. He said, okay.
Wait, he's named after Grandpa Jameson. Wait a minute. What's your son's name?
Jameson.
And what's your name?
Joe.
Oh, I thought
No.
you were Jameson. Okay. I was
No,
going to say,
no,
wait.
he is.
Okay.
He's Jameson because his father's family is Irish.
Okay.
So he is Jameson.
Okay.
But yeah, he's very matter of fact about things, and he's very much just like, okay, well, it is what it is.
Okay.
And
you
he
deal
just
with
kind
it as you
of,
go.
yeah, he just kind of goes with it, like, okay, well, that's what we're doing now.
So I asked you this before, but now that we've had this conversation, moving forward, what do you think your biggest challenges for tomorrow might be? What is your biggest obstacle that life might throw at you?
I think mostly just the muddling through a daily life. I mean, you just pray every morning that you're going to have a good day and not be in pain and not have the brain fog and not have the fatigue. I really, there's been so many different things that have happened to me that are anomalies that I really couldn't even tell you what my future, it's whatever it is, it's going to be confusing to the doctors.
Okay.
It's always a fun game just to
Yeah.
find out how we confuse the doctor.
Yeah.
Too bad you don't see. Do you live near each other?
Yeah, she
Kind of,
actually
yeah, we're
lives in
pretty close.
Wadsworth, and I'm gonna be checking out her doctor.
I was going to say, too bad you're not in it together.
Yeah.
There's a couple studies going on.
I saw at the walk
There's
one had a
there's one
study
at
of
Metro.
research.
There's one at the Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah, I was actually
You
gonna
should
call
be in
them.
those. My twin and I were in those, and that's how we found out we were 100% DNA match.
I was I
Yeah.
was actually looking into the one that there was a medical, and then there was a drug, and then
Usually
there's
they're
just a research
questionnaire.
study.
You can do some of the question. I would,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I was
You
yeah, I
can
was
actually go on
interested
our website and it'll tell you all the different studies.
Okay.
The thing
Okay.
is, if we can do anything to help, like
Move it
future-
along.
Yeah,
Sure.
like,
Absolutely.
that's our main goal. Is
Sure.
like, does Jameson have the genes in it, and will
Well,
he
so that
get
you know,
affected?
it's usually primary women,
Right,
young women in the prime of their life.
but they could have
Of course.
other autoimmune.
hmm So you said autoimmune ran in your family. You have
Which,
a,
yeah.
a brother.
Yeah, my brother,
brother?
has that inclining spondylosis, so
Okay.
whatever it is. And
Your
he's
brother.
really
What
bad,
about
and
your
he's
husband's
younger.
side of the family?
No, everybody over there. No, we did have a scare. We thought one of our sisters had the skin lupus,
Okay.
but they tested her, and here it's eczema.
Discoid. Yeah.
Yes, and
Okay.
thank
You have
goodness.
sisters. How many?
Well, it's not
sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law.
Okay.
I only have 3 brothers.
Okay. Only 3 brothers. I have one and I can't manage him. Oh Lord, I can't imagine
I
having
didn't
3
say I
brothers.
manage them. They all
Yeah.
live, like across the country, so
Their own job.
yeah, they can handle themselves.
So, mother daughter, I'm in awe over this. You're both beautiful, but bubbly as all heck, very optimistic.
I think you have to be.
Not fearful. I mean,
No.
you're
I don't
doing
think there's a
very
place for
well.
it. You have to just say, you know what, this is what it is,
This
but you
is our life.
can't. you
Yeah.
can't let it stop you. You
Yeah.
have to say, okay,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be kind to myself. I'm going to give myself this, like, my body the space that it needs, but
Mhm.
I still have a lot of things. Like, I still have all the stuff that I want and need to do. So, like, I'm still gonna do it. I'm just maybe gonna do it a little slower.
Yeah.
A little slower, or you pivot.
Or I'm
It's
gonna
You,
do it a
like
little
or you
different.
do
yeah,
different. You do
when we
something
did the
different.
walk last weekend,
Yeah.
and I end up.
You can
Ill.
keep it PG.
I
for
know.
the
I'm
viewers.
trying to think how I
Ill.
ended up throwing up.
Yeah, there you go.
And now I don't know if that's a lupus or if that's diabetic, but I think it's more lupus because it actually started the nausea and that stuff started before I became diabetic. So I don't know. But everybody kept saying, well, you want to go back, you want to go back. Well, we didn't even go halfway on the walk. And I was like, no. And so once I didn't feel so nauseous, I got myself up and I continued walking and
You
had
got
to
her
make
a
a couple.
fan. You got her a
Yeah,
neck
I
fan.
had I bought all
Please,
the girls.
please
family
tell me
neck
you're
fans.
in the picture. Are you in the picture?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, thank the
Yeah,
Lord.
we're on the
Okay,
top
it's
on
it's
the upper
it's
right.
hard to get the picture. So,
Yeah.
isn't that something being around so many other fellow
Yes,
Lupians?
It was
yes.
really cool.
Well, it was
It
really
is.
kind of
And
cool, wasn't
I
it?
think if we like, I think it would be good to sit and talk with some of them
Yes.
and like find
Yes.
out what they're going through
Mhm.
and
Well, that's why we have support groups. It's a
right.
care and share. What do you got? What do I got? And how do we come
Yeah.
together on this? You
Absolutely.
look, my lupus has brought me an extended family that I wouldn't have had, okay, without lupus. Okay, I
Right.
know people from all over,
So
all
there
over
is
the
a
country.
Yeah.
good thing
That's the
to it.
upside. So,
Yeah.
it's either the glass half full or half
Yeah.
empty theory. So, my thing is I always carry a pitcher. So if it's half empty, I just fill it up again. But you guys are an absolute delight. You're full of energy. You look great. You're managing. You're pivoting when you have to. And I would encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. And I welcome you into our lupus community and our lupus family.
Thank you.
And before we close, what would you tell a fellow Lupian that's having a tough time?
Oh gosh.
Keep pushing through. Every day is different.
Yeah.
Every day is different. You gotta first of all make sure you have a good doctor,
Mm-hmm.
have a good support team, and just
Take a nap.
listen. Yes, listen
Take a
to
nap.
your
Take a
body.
nap first.
Listen to your body because every
Mhm.
day it'll be different.
And you're working. You're
Yes.
working full time.
Yes, and
Okay.
you know, I am very blessed. The job that I have, that I work from home, and they are so understanding with just letting me work whatever hours I kind of want. So if I need to take a nap in the middle of the day, I take a
Oh,
nap
that
in the
is a
middle of the
blessing.
day.
You got
And I
lucky.
know that not everybody can
Yeah.
do that, and so not everybody can keep it up. If I
Yeah.
didn't have the job I do, I would have broken down many times.
Yeah.
So it's not always, just that easy. I know it's
Yeah.
not as simple as just take a nap. It's more, just one step at a time and one breath at a time, but it's baby steps some days. But
Well, you guys did a great job sharing and caring today, and I can't thank you enough. And everybody,
For
welcome
inviting us.
to my lupus living room. And as always, your doctor is the best source to provide information to you on how you can treat your disease. This is information only here. We're not trying to tell you how to treat your disease, but if you'd like to share your story and have a unique story, or just want to sit and talk with me, I welcome you to my lupus living room. So thank you, everybody, and y'all have a
Thank you for
great day.
having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Remember, there is no I in lupus, but there is an us. Until next time, this has been my Lupus Living Room with the Lupus Foundation of America's Great Ohio Chapter. For more information and resources to help you in your lupus journey, please visit lupusgreatohio.org or call 1-888-NO-LUPUS. The funding for my Lupus Living Room is an earmark from the state of Ohio and managed by the Ohio Department of Health. Your physician is the best person to help you in the treatment of lupus. The information you learn here today can be discussed with your doctor, as your physician knows your medical history best. Please do not make any medical changes without consulting your physician first. As with any treatment, stay educated and get information from trusted sources.